What's up YouTube? My name is Caden and you're watching Gas at Garage. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace the ignition coil on a Predator 420cc engine. Alright guys, so this is my brother's off-road go-kart with a Predator 420cc non-hemi engine on here, and this thing has been having a ton of issues and it's given me a ton of problems, not running, not wanting to start, running poorly, having running issues, all kinds of stuff. So I have replaced pretty much all of the parts I can think of on this thing. I've replaced the carburetor, I've tried the stock air filter as well as a pod air filter. I've replaced the exhaust with a straight header, and then I tried again with the stock exhaust. I've also adjusted the valves multiple times. I've messed with the wiring up there. I've torn into the internals of the engine, made sure the timing was in spec on the cam and the balance shaft. I also adjusted the valves, and I even went as far as replacing the piston rings on this thing. And for some reason, it still just will not start. So the only thing I can possibly think of is that we have a bad ignition coil. Or it could just be some stupid issue with the wiring. But today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the ignition coil on this thing so I can at least rule that out and hopefully get this engine to start. So this right here is the new ignition coil, and to replace it we're going to have to first remove the airbox right here, and then the pull cover slash fan shroud assembly right there to get to the old one, to take it out and put the new one in. So I think I'm going to have to take the shock off to do that, so let's go ahead and start with that. Alright, so now that I have the shock off, I can take off the pull starter and the fan shroud and the airbox. So to remove the pull starter, there's 3 8mm bolts holding it on. And then the airbox has 2 10mm nuts. And then on the Predator 420, it also has a screw underneath here, right here, but I've already taken that out and it is a 10mm bolt. So if your engine is pretty new or you've never taken the airbox off before, you'll need to remove that 10mm bolt to get the airbox off. Now to remove this fan shroud, there are 5 8mm bolts holding it on. Alright, now here we have our old ignition coil. Now it's held on by 2 8mm bolts, and these are longer than the other ones. So the way you take this off is you just go this way and then take your spark plug cap off. Now there's a kill wire that goes to the kill switch, and it attaches over here. So unplug this and then slide it out just like this. And then here's the old ignition coil. Now we have our new ignition coil right here. We want to position this in the same way that the old one was, and that's with the wires going up. So first thing you want to do is that you got to slide this up through here, and then there's 2 little clips right here that you put that into, and this goes around and plugs into the spark plug right here. And then the kill wire feeds up through here, down underneath the starter over here, and then you're going to hook it back into the wire that you unplugged it from. There we go. Okay, so now that the kill wire is attached, we can now bolt in the coil itself. Now, you have to make sure that the gap between the ignition coil and the flywheel is correct. And the way I do that is you take a piece of paper that's about the thickness of a credit card, probably a little bit thinner if you can, and you place it between the ignition coil and the flywheel, like this. Then you line up the bolt holes, put the bolts in, and then you don't want to press too firmly, but just enough to hold that piece of paper in place, and then you can tighten down the bolts. Then you can rotate your flywheel to remove the piece of paper. And it doesn't look like we have any sort of clearance issues. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is replace this back onto the engine. And you want to make sure that your coil wire going to the spark plug comes through this little piece right here. So I find it's easiest to get that bolt right there in first. And I never tighten these things down fully until I get all the bolts finger tight, because if I tighten this one down and then put another one in and tighten it down, it might not be exactly straight and I might not be able to get the other bolts in without loosening the ones that I just put in. All right, and that is how you replace the ignition coil on a Predator 420. Now, I'm going to put this shock back on, get it off the jack, and I'm going to try and start this engine. Now, if this engine doesn't start, it's probably because it's defective and it has some other issue, because even when I bought this thing, it was having issues. So if it does have issues, it's not because of the ignition coil, it's not because I did it wrong, it's because this specific unit has some other issue which I really can't figure out to save my life. So the point of this video was to show you how to replace the ignition coil, and that's what we did. So I'm just going to show you trying to start this engine after I check the wiring off camera, and then that will be it. All right, I checked the kill switch wiring off camera, and we do have spark. So I am going to try and start this thing. Although the spark was kind of weak, which might mean we have a bad flywheel magnet, so this thing may or may not start. Yeah, I don't know. This engine has been giving me grief for months now, and I'm so sick of it. We're probably just going to sell it. But we got the ignition coil replaced, which was the goal of this video. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.